Okay, in this video, I want to talk about chapter one of the Problems of Philosophy by Bertrand Russell. Okay, this is probably the single most interesting and best introduction to philosophy written in the 20th century. The Problems of Philosophy by Bertrand Russell. I'm going to talk about chapter one. If you want to know what philosophy is about, there's no better place to begin than reading Bertrand Russell. Bertrand Russell is the one of the founders of modern what's called analytic philosophy. And in 1903, he wrote an essay. Well, actually, in 1903, he with G.E. Moore. He and G.E. Moore both broke away from what was called idealism, and so anyway, Bertrand Russell is a great philosopher. He's in the empiricist tradition of Locke and Berkeley, Hume. The empiricist tradition, even though Berkeley is a idealist, he's in the empiricist tradition. Anyway. Chapter one is called Appearance and Reality. So this is it's a great introduction to philosophy. So I want to spend a couple of maybe a couple lectures on this chapter. Here's how he begins the chapter one. Let me just read the first paragraph. Is there any knowledge in the world which is so certain that no reasonable man could doubt it? That's how Russell begins his book. Is there any knowledge in the world which is so certain that no reasonable man could doubt it? That's an epistemological question. Epistemology deals with the question of knowledge. Knowledge, what is knowledge? How can we know things? What are the limits of our knowledge? This is an epistemological question. But chapter one also deals with ontology. The title of the chapter, Appearance and Reality. Reality deals with ontology. Reality deals with what is. But to know what is, you have to know it, and to know it, knowledge deals with epistemology. Is there any knowledge in the world which is so certain that no reasonable man could doubt it? Another way to look at that opening sentence, that question raises a question of skepticism. Skepticism is a skeptic is somebody who says, I don't know. How can I know? A skeptic is somebody who doubts that we can have knowledge. And this is a skeptical question. Is there any knowledge in the world which is so certain that no reasonable man could doubt it? The answer is not obvious. The answer may be no. There is no knowledge that we cannot doubt, and that would be a radical skeptic would say that. Is there any knowledge in the world which is so certain that no reasonable man could doubt it? Now, and then Russell proceeds. He says this question, which at first sight might not seem difficult. You ask a normal person, is there anything that you cannot doubt? And most people will say, yeah, there's a lot of things I can't doubt. There's a pen here. I'm holding a pen in my hand. There's a world outside me. This question, Russell says, which at first sight might not seem difficult. To most people it doesn't. But Russell says it's really one of the most difficult questions that can be asked. The chapter is called Appearance and Reality. We already have an example of appearance and reality in the very first couple sentences. The question, is there any knowledge in the world which is so certain that no reasonable man could doubt it? That appears to be a simple question. It seems to be that it appears to have an obvious answer. And the obvious answer is, yeah, of course there's many things that we cannot doubt. But the reality is that there are many things that we can doubt. In fact, Russell says that this is the very entrance into philosophy, to realize that what most people think they cannot doubt actually can be doubted and should be doubted. This question, which at first sight might not seem difficult, is really one of the most difficult which can be asked. When we have realized the obstacles in the way of a straightforward and confident answer, we shall be well launched on the study of philosophy. Okay, why is that the case? For philosophy, because philosophy is merely the attempt. This is Russell's definition of philosophy. For philosophy is merely the attempt to answer such ultimate questions, not carelessly and dogmatically, as we do in ordinary life and even in the sciences, but critically after exploring all that makes such questions puzzling, and after realizing all the vagueness and confusion that underlie our ordinary ideas. That's a great introduction to what philosophy is about. And let me point one thing out. When you read philosophy, you need to be aware when of arguments when they arise. And in this first paragraph, let me show you where there is an argument here. And an argument is composed of two parts: premises, and a premise is a reason. So you have a premise, or one or more premises, and a conclusion. A premise gives you reasons for believing something, and what you're supposed to believe is the conclusion. Whenever you have a premise and a conclusion, then you have an argument. Let me just go over this first paragraph and make a few comments about it to show you different types of sentences that philosophers you will find in philosophical writings. Notice the very first sentence: "Is there any knowledge in the world just as so certain that no reasonable man could doubt it?" What type of sentence is that? It's a question. It's not a statement, it's a question. So, when you're reading philosophy, you're going to come across many questions that philosophers are asked. These are questions. Okay, is there any knowledge in the world which is so certain that no reasonable man could doubt it? Okay, now let's see if we can find an argument here. Then he goes, this question, which at first sight might not seem difficult, is really one of the most difficult that can be asked. That's not an argument, that's just a statement. When we have realized, now here is an argument. These two sentences are going to form an argument. Let me read the sentence. When we have realized the obstacles in the way of a straightforward and confident answer to the question that was initially posed, is there any knowledge in the world which is so certain that no reasonable man could doubt it? Okay, here's an argument. The conclusion is this: when we have realized the obstacles in the way of a straightforward and confident answer, we shall be well launched on the study of philosophy. Now, you say, well, why is that the case? Give me some evidence that that's true. That statement is a conclusion, and now Russell's going to give offer you a premise that statement is true, and then you're going to have an argument. And then he says for, and for means because. For or because philosophy is merely the attempt to answer such questions, to answer such ultimate questions, not carelessly and dogmatically, as we do in ordinary life and even in the sciences, but critically, after exploring all that makes such questions puzzling, and after realizing all the vagueness and confusion that underlie our ordinary ideas. So, in that first paragraph, beginning with when, you have two sentences there. The second sentence is very long. When we have realized the obstacles in the way of a straightforward and confident answer, we shall be well launched on the study of philosophy. That's a conclusion of an argument. And then the rest of the paragraph, beginning with the word for, which means because, and that signal, the word before or because indicate that a premise is coming. For philosophy is merely the attempt to answer such ultimate questions. And then it goes on. So, beginning with when we have realized, all the way to the end of the very first paragraph, that is an argument. In philosophy, and it's important to recognize that it is an argument is something that you need to notice, because then you need to evaluate them. You may agree with it, and in this case, I would agree with it. I mean, I don't see any problem with it. But you do need to notice when arguments arise. So I would suggest when you're reading philosophy, read slowly. And when you come across an argument, have some way of noting that it is an argument. Maybe just write the word argument next to it, or whatever. What I do is I do this. I don't know if you can see this. I don't know if you can see that. I make it 2 coming down to a 1. That, to me, indicates an argument. The 1 is the conclusion. The 2 is the premise. That's a very simple argument. So premise. But you don't have to do that. I mean, that's what I do. You could just write, ARG or argument. But I would really suggest that when you read philosophy, this week you're supposed to have read you should be reading the Phaedo. The Phaedo is full of arguments. I mean, it has many arguments. And even this essay by Russell, Appearance and Reality, has many arguments. The reason is, when you read philosophy, you need to read slowly. Do not read fast. And as you read it, pay attention to arguments when they appear and note them down, so you could go back after you're finished with the essay, and if you're going to write an essay on it, or write an essay on it, if you read slowly and do the work as you read it and take notes, then writing the essay will be actually pretty easy. The last thing you want to do when you're in a philosophy class is when you're given an assignment, to immediately go to Wikipedia or some secondary source and just start copying or paraphrasing what other people say. That destroys philosophy. You have a mind, think for yourself, read slowly, take notes. Whatever you're going to write about, you become the expert on it. So you don't have to depend upon somebody else. Okay? So I'm going to stop at this point because I already spent over 14 minutes in this. I don't want to go too long. So I've spent like 14 minutes on the very first paragraph. I'm not going to spend 14 minutes on every paragraph. Obviously, you never get through the essay. But I will do another lecture, maybe 2 little lectures, on Chapter 1 of Appearance and Reality by Bertrand Russell. Bertrand Russell is a great writer, beautiful writer, and beautiful introduction to philosophy. Okay, so I will come back and continue talking about Chapter 1 of Bertrand Russell's Problems of Philosophy.